was a Bitcoin. Yep. Yep. Yes.
What is up, Bitcoiners? I have an awesome and exciting interview for y'all. I got down with the CTO of Robinhood Crypto, Johann Kerbrat. He is a builder and an OG Bitcoiner. He's been in the space since early days, and he's been trying to build and incorporate Bitcoin into fintech for a long time. The man has built his own startups, and he has worked at Uber. He has worked at Airbnb, and he has done an enormous amount in terms of working in payments and seeing what it's like to roll out serious infrastructure across the globe. He is now at Robinhood leading the effort to improve and take Robinhood's crypto trading platform to the masses and making their Bitcoin wallet a reality. He has a lot of thoughts on what is happening in the Bitcoin and crypto sphere in general, where Bitcoin fits into what is happening inside of Robinhood and what is happening globally. I think you all are going to get a lot of insight from this podcast. And I think you'll be pretty relieved that there are actual Bitcoin and crypto people working at Robinhood and building out their solution. Because let's face it, Robinhood has enormous amount of new money coming into the Bitcoin and crypto space. A lot of that money is coming in through Dogecoin. And, we want to make sure that these customers are coming on in the most friendly way possible, in a way that is good for them. So the fact that Robinhood is going to be rolling out withdrawals and enable people to take their own custody of their Bitcoin, and they're thinking about how to make that as palatable as possible for their customers, their audience, I think that is going to hopefully be a big win for Bitcoin. So without further ado, let's get into this podcast. Bitcoiners, I am across from a man who you may or may not have heard of, but he is behind one of the most important Bitcoin and crypto wallets out there. It is Johann Kerbrat, the CTO of Robinhood Crypto. Johann, welcome to the Bitcoin Magazine podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here today.
So, Johann, you have a great history building at a lot of very successful companies, including Airbnb. I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about your story, kind of professionally, and how you got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's a long question. I think I got into crypto. So I'm French. That's why you're going to listen to a terrible French accent the entire time. But I got into crypto, about 2009, 2010. At the time, there was this financial crisis in the US that I think impacted Europe quite a lot. And I think it took a lot longer to recover for the European countries than from the US. And at the time, one of my roommate was Greek, and his family was really impacted. And so at the time, I really wanted to understand what is this thing that is called money, and why does it have so much power on us? And that's right at the same time that the white paper of Bitcoin started to be published and broadcasted on every IRC channel and everything. And so I started to look into it, and I was like, oh, this is a solution to all our problems. And so at the time I started to mine Bitcoin. I was running my own full node as well, because I wanted to contribute to the network and make sure that this network could be decentralized and work. And then that's also at the same time that I started my career. So I built at the time a very small startup before I went to college. We were building payment system and CMS for small to medium-sized companies. And because it was this crisis, a lot of time, people were trying to set up bank account, but it was expensive. They had high fees on transaction. Stripe was not that famous. I don't even know if they existed at the time. But at this,
it was hard to do internet and commerce,
right,
not even
exactly.
that long ago.
Exactly. And it's so crazy to think nowadays, because it's so easy to pay with your credit card everywhere. But at the time, it was difficult. And even today, to be honest, if you wanted to launch an e-commerce website and you want to sell, I don't know, tobacco product, you can't use Stripe for it. And so that's when I started to build like the first kind of crypto plugin that people could use into their e-commerce website, and so they could accept Bitcoin and offer a transaction with it. It wasn't super successful because a lot of people didn't really know what was Bitcoin, but we still had a lot of people using it, and that was pretty cool to see. And then when I moved to the US, I spent most of my career on payments, worked on small startup at first. Then I went to Airbnb. At Airbnb, I really saw how difficult it is to have a single payment system. Airbnb is available in, I think, almost every country except 3, I think, if I remember correctly. And a lot of these countries hosts don't have a bank, or they can't go to the bank easily. And so it was very difficult to build this one system that is plugged in every single country. Like, the US, India, China, they have great payment system, but not everywhere else. And so that's also something that made me think like, there is something better out there. And then I went to Uber. Uber, it was a similar system, right? Like people work shift, or they were a driver, and they have to wait before getting the money because of the time that it takes to process and to send the transaction to a different bank account. And that's kind of all this little information that I got from all these great companies that made me think that we need to bring more people into the crypto world.
Okay, so you are actually, kind of a Bitcoin OG, getting into it very early on. Did you ever try to, I guess it didn't necessarily make sense to pitch Bitcoin even up until now. Like now we're seeing El Salvador, and we're seeing, use cases in Nigeria, and we're seeing the Lightning Network with Bitcoin. But like you as as a crypto enthusiast, a Bitcoiner, at these companies working on payments, what was that experience kind of like? And did you ever bring up Bitcoin as a potential solution, or maybe a future solution? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't really, unfortunately, talk about too much about that, but there was definitely a discussion around a crypto at every single of this company, and there were people looking into it all the time. I think that was always kind of a timing issues, like in 2017, for example, when the bull run kind of stopped, everyone was like, oh, crypto is over now, so we don't need to invest in it anymore. And so I think that was kind of always a timing problem. But I do think that, what we're seeing today in El Salvador, the Lightning Network really taking off, I think a lot more companies are going to start looking into it and understand how much they can save in fees, in time, and in operational cost, and start using crypto for real.
Okay, so I guess I want to talk a little bit. You've been through crypto and Bitcoin this entire time. What has your mental model for this technology how has that changed and shifted, throughout the journey? And, maybe you can kind of bring us to now you're at Robinhood, really like actually building out their crypto product. I would say they've had a crypto product, but not really, because it doesn't actually interact with any crypto in a real way with the protocols, but for users. But yeah, I guess tell me a little bit more about your Bitcoin journey in terms of, you got here early, it was too early, you tried to build something, you kind of did all these, different startup jobs, and now you're back to working on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think, for me, one of my goals in life has been to bring more people into crypto. I want adoption for crypto, not just for speculation, but also for use case. It used to be like 2 or 3 years ago, the only thing you will read in the news about crypto is how someone got rich quickly, or they lost their hardware somewhere in the trash and they lost millions of dollars. That's one aspect of crypto. But for me, the real aspect of crypto is how do we bring millions of people that don't have bank, or they don't have a way to even get a bank account, and we can bring them into the kind of the internet world where they can receive and send payments. So that's really the exciting part for me. And the reason why I joined Robinhood is I really felt like the ease to use product, and the fact that Robinhood is really focused on their customers, and we are actually 100% focused on customers. We are not working with institution. We are not trying to do 20 million things. We are really focusing just on crypto for customers. And so I really think that by having this simple product where we have a lot of young people using it, we have a lot of diversification on our customer base. And so I really think we can bring a lot of people into the crypto world. At first, they will, want to get exposure and trade crypto. But then, once we have wallets, they can start going into the crypto world, and they can start using it really and starting to understand like, why is crypto such a big thing? So yeah, that's how I decided to join at Robinhood. How my mentality changed, I think, I started by being like kind of a Bitcoin maximalist. I always really thought that new projects were kind of a scam and a way for people to get rich quickly. And then there was like a lot more projects that I actually started to look into, and I got very interested. I think as Bitcoin continues to gain traction in the global economy, like institutions are coming in, what you're seeing in El Salvador, more ways to spend. I think it's been really interesting to see Bitcoin growing and also seeing like other assets becoming to grow. And I think at the time I was maybe in the mindset like everything has to be Bitcoin, but now I think it's actually interesting to have so many projects starting and kind of bringing new use case and new ways of even using decentralization or privacy. And so that's something that I've been really interested in the past 5-6 years. I don't think we can build every use case that we are seeing in other layer ones by using layer twos. It will take time. It will create issues like trust issues, like Lightning Network took pretty long time to really develop and get traction. So I think it's beneficial to see like all this all of these people getting into crypto, creating new things, creating new product, creating new layer ones, new layer twos. I think it's very beneficial for the cryptocurrency world as one.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a much more, Bitcoin only audience here at Bitcoin Magazine. But with that being said, my personal thesis is that all of this is Bitcoin.
Right.
I think from an investment perspective, like 21 million is money, and that's where kind of the value ultimately kind of like land. But I don't see like all the other stuff being built. I think all of it is interoperable with Bitcoin, both as like an exchange pair, and then two, like they're all scrambling to create interoperability solutions. So like I don't see any of this stuff as like really necessarily not being part of the open source crypto ecosystem. But with that being said, kind of curious where you see Bitcoin in kind of like the future ecosystem, and is Bitcoin money? Do other things compete with Bitcoin as money? I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are along like that debate.
I mean, it's a tough question to answer in 1 minute or two, but I think Bitcoin has reached a place that is going to be very hard to move away from, and I think what we're seeing with the Lightning and other solutions will help us move it just from like this idea of Bitcoin gold, but also like Bitcoin money, I guess, like day-to-day money. But to me, I still want to encourage like the competition. I think if tomorrow, all the other projects died and we were not pushing Bitcoin to make progress, we will not be where we are today. I think, what happened at the time with Bitcoin Cash, or like the block size, I guess that was probably the bigger issue. That really pushed a lot of people to start thinking about other solutions and not just, there's only one single way. So I think the competition we're seeing with the other protocol is very interesting. And decentralization also means that you need to have a competition of ideas before you can select just one and decide that this is the right one. So to me, I think you can still really believe in Bitcoin and still have some Ethereum because you're interested in NFTs, or you want to do something with a smart contract that still makes total sense, and you can still use Bitcoin as your main crypto.
Gotcha. No, I mean, again, I think for the most part we're pretty aligned here. And again, you've been in the space for a long time, so I very much respect your opinion. So I want to get back to, like, forgive me if you disagree with this terminology, but making the Robinhood product into a real crypto product and building out an actual wallet. I'm curious what you can actually talk about, and I'm curious, what that's looking like, because I do have a little bit of Bitcoin on Robinhood, and I was planning on selling it, but now maybe I can withdraw it, right? That would be a much better situation.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned something actually in the question before, like that we were not interacting with the network, but actually we own the coins of all our customers. Like I read crazy things on Reddit where we only have derivative, or we don't really own Bitcoins or whatever. Every time someone make a purchase on Robinhood, we own these assets on the custody on our custody system. So basically, the reason why it took so long is we had to kind of make sure that we were building the system in with a mindset of safety first. Like, it's one of our core values at Robinhood. And so, a lot of users like you, they know what's a wallet, they know how to make transaction, they know how to, what even is a key to send the crypto to. But we have a lot of users, they are the first time crypto customer. They never own anything before. They don't even know what's a public or private key. And so we really wanted to build an interface and a UI that is friendly enough and with enough education system that people can understand what they are supposed to do when they want to do a transfer on chain. And the second part was really around security. We spent a lot of time really building, the security in our system, not just on our custody system, which is of course very important, but also on the app. Like, what we want to avoid is account takeover, and we want to avoid people losing their funds, because as as soon as it's on the chain, we can get them back. So we spend a lot of time building a new MFA verification in app, so we know when people are actually initiating a transfer. We have a lot of checks around making sure that this is your device, this is not someone that stole the device from you or that managed to get in. And so that was really like why it took us so long. And then the second part is we want to make sure that we can scale correctly. We started in reverse order. Like, we didn't start with wallet first and then trading. We started with trading. Now we have a lot of users using it. And so we want to make sure that when we start opening the wallets to everyone, they will be able to use them without any bottleneck or any issue on our system. And so for that, we kind of had the idea of building with a mindset of opening to the public. So we'll get some people, some beta tester with us. They will try the product. They will give us feedback. We will also share the feedback with the community, and really understanding, like, what were we missing, what is complicated for a first-time user to use, what is easier, and then that way we can bring, again, more people into the crypto world.
All right, Bitcoiners, I want to tell you about our newest sponsor. This show is brought to you by Ledn.io. I have been super, super impressed with the guys over at Ledn. I've actually known the co-founders, Adam and Mauricio, for a very long time. I've had the pleasure to watch them build Ledn up from a tiny, tiny startup to now a super impressive institutional grade Bitcoin and crypto lender. Y'all, I'm so impressed with these guys. They are offering some of the best rates out there. I don't think anyone even comes close to touching them. You can get 6.1% APY on your first 2 Bitcoin that you deposit into Ledn interest accounts, and you can get 8.5% on USDC deposits. I mean, I know all the competitors. They're not even close. If you're going to put your crypto and your Bitcoin into an interest account, Ledn is by far the best. And on top of that, like I said, these guys are hardcore Bitcoiners, and they know the products and the services that Bitcoiners want and appreciate. They come up with B2X. It allows you to put your Bitcoin in, they leverage it up, and you can, with one click of the mouse, get twice the exposure to Bitcoin. So if you're super bullish, Ledn has you covered with a super, super easy way to get leverage with B2X. And then on top of that, They know that Bitcoiners care about your reserves. They know that Bitcoiners don't like under reserved and not full reserved financial institutions. So they are pushing the frontier in transparency in the digital asset lending space. And they are the first digital asset lender to do a full proof of reserves and proof of attestation through a Mariano LLC, a public accounting firm. So the Ledin guys, they know what Bitcoiners like. They are legit. I encourage you guys to check them out. Do your own research and go to ledin.io. That is LEDN.io and learn more.
No, I mean, again, I appreciate you answering my kind of pointed questions here. And I do agree that you have an enormous amount of newbie users, right? And you have to be very delicate, because I can imagine your support queue, which is already probably unreal, would only go exponential, if crypto withdrawals were there and people were sending Dogecoin to Bitcoin addresses and vice versa and making mistakes, kind of mistakes that to Bitcoin people would be like, oh, don't do that. But to someone who is, going from, buying, S&P 500 to Bitcoin and realizing that Bitcoin is actually currency and not just a stock, like those are some pretty big leaps in kind of understanding.
Yeah, that's totally right. I think, a lot of our customer base is very different from what we see on Twitter, on Reddit. And again, the most important thing for me is to bring more people into the crypto world. So we want their first experience to be positive. Anyone who wants to try their hand at Bitcoin or Ethereum, like if tomorrow they lose all their funds because they made a mistake, they will probably not come back to the ecosystem again. So for us, it's very important to make sure that it's a good experience.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious, outside of, general UX improvements and designing the wallet and that kind of stuff, you mentioned education. Can you talk a little bit about like what kind of education and resources you're putting out for users? Is it like general, like here's how a wallet works, or is it like this is what Bitcoin is, this is what DApp is, like what extent of of information are you kind of providing folks?
Yeah, we'll have a combination of everything basically. Like it will go from, what is a network fee? What does it mean? Like the first thing we want to make sure that people understand is a network fee doesn't go into Robinhood's pocket, right? And we actually are just paying the miners or the network. There will be explanation also on our blog around like what is a wallet, what is the difference between non-custodial and custodial wallet. To your point, like what is Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin different than Ethereum? What is the difference between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin? Like all this kind of stuff that for us it's obvious because we've been here in the space for so long. But for some people, the difference between Ethereum or Ethereum Classic is just like one word. They don't really know what is the difference on the protocol. So we want to make sure that people understand that and then can learn with us on the different crypto specific.
Does Robinhood see itself as a crypto company at this point? Or, I mean, it started off as, a brokerage app, maybe for millennials, but it sounds like, the crypto portion of the business has really started to skyrocket. I'm just kind of curious, is Robinhood just is it a crypto company now? Like what's the official memo here?
I think that's a funny question. I was always worried about joining a marketplace initially. To me, there's a lot more than just speculation on crypto. But I think what's really interesting with Robinhood is that we kind of always put our user, our customer first, and that's really what attracted me. And so our goal is to be a one-stop shop for all your investment / financial needs. So we want to do what's right for our customers. And clearly, in this market, if we are not offering crypto, we will not do what's right for our customer. In Q2, we saw a strong growth in crypto, but we also saw very strong growth in Q2 among women investors, for example. We also saw IPO access that gives customer an opportunity to invest in companies at their IPO price. So we saw a growth on a lot of things, not just crypto. But yeah, we are definitely trying to innovate. I think to me we are on day one. To your point, we are only going to launch wallet just now, so we really need to start thinking about the long term. So for that reason, we grew the entire team a lot. The engineering team grew by 6x in the past few months, and we are still hiring, by the way. So if anyone who is listening wants to join the engineering team, please reach out. And yeah, I think for us, it's really the beginning. We still have a long road to go, but I think we see ourselves as an investment company, not just a crypto company or not just an equities company.
I like that answer a lot. And I mean, to be honest, I think that Robinhood is a very misunderstood company. People like to look at Robinhood investors in a bad way. And I just think that that's completely unfair. We live in a world where monetary uncertainty is, high, uncertainty is high. And a lot of dollars are being, inflated, and, people need assets that they can store value in. And I think, Robinhood, like you said, in terms of like focusing on their customers, giving them those like that ability has been the tip of that spear by a long shot. So I think that Robinhood is very important, and just giving the average person, access to a lot of stuff that they've never had access before, let alone, Bitcoin, and now hopefully a Bitcoin wallet soon. So, again, I'm sure that there's fair criticism, but I would definitely say that generally speaking, I think, I definitely can see the customer focus and the investment company focus for sure, as a customer and as just a spectator.
We appreciate these kind of comments for sure. I think, to us, it's really the most important part is when you look at some of our numbers, it's kind of crazy. Like 50% of our customers are first-time investors. It's not, these people were doing something else before and they just moved to different platforms. They were never investing before, and they actually started to invest because maybe we made the system easier, or it's more accessible, or it's easier to understand. But to us, it's really the part that is interesting is like removing the barriers to finance. And on the crypto side, it's removing the barrier to crypto. Like, in my opinion, crypto was made by tech people for tech people. Like we never really thought about user experience or user interface in the past. And so Robinhood, by making it so easy for someone to buy a Dogecoin or to buy a Bitcoin, that's really going to change things quite a lot.
Are you going to roll out the wallets all at the same time, or is it going to be like Bitcoin first, then Ethereum? I'm very skeptical how many Dogecoin users actually are going to want to withdraw.
Yeah, we'll roll out probably most of the coin at the same time, but we have a wait list system, and so we'll roll out user by user, like probably like to avoid like too much stress on our system at once. But yeah, people will be able to withdraw like all the currency that they want to withdraw or deposit as well. It works in the two direction.
So I want honesty from you. From a technical perspective, do you find that it's easier to support certain currencies versus others? My biased assumption is that Bitcoin is the easiest to support, with maybe some others being a little bit more difficult. But I'm not actually running the tech, so I'm curious what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think there are many elements around supporting a currency. There is like the full node or the validator side. There is the wallet side. There is all the smart contract parts on Ethereum. I think on the full node side, I will say Bitcoin is definitely the one of the most advanced. It's been running for years now, and we have multiple versions on multiple language, and so people have implemented any kind of patch they could find and performance optimization they could find. We don't support like some of the newer currency at Robinhood yet, but for sure in my past experience, like some of the new projects, when you get their full node, it's very difficult. Like they crash every hours, or they fill your memory, or they require like crazy hardware. Bitcoin, a full node on Bitcoin is pretty easy to launch, start. almost any machine can support it. So that part is definitely one of the easiest parts for sure.
I mean, how does that? I mean, can you give us some insight into other coins that you've dealt with? Are there any horror stories, or I mean, I understand if you can't divulge a lot, but
not at Robinhood, like all our coins are kind of Bitcoin forks or Ethereum and Ethereum forks, and Ethereum in some ways is a Bitcoin fork. So I think at this point, we haven't seen like crazy horror story at Robinhood. I definitely have horror story from my past life, but I think it's also normal, like when you launch a project from scratch, like I worked at a layer one company. It's hard to think about every single aspect where, Bitcoin did that for 10 years now. And so there's a lot more time to build a system that is stable and can work correctly.
So, I mean, I'm kind of curious, going back to crypto being a part of someone's personal finance and Robinhood just being a finance, like a center for all a person's finance. Like, do you see a world where in Robinhood there could be stock to Bitcoin trading pairs and things like that? I mean, how far does this go? Again, for me, like, it's very interesting to think of like, hey, I have these stocks, I could liquidate that, put it into Bitcoin, withdraw that Bitcoin. That's a very interesting functionality to me, and it's definitely differentiated. I'm just kind of curious, to what extent does Robinhood kind of see crypto and Bitcoin integrating into one's traditional finance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't talk about anything coming in the roadmap or maybe not coming, but at this point we also have we have 0% commission or anything like that. So if you wanted to do that, if you want to, you have Bitcoin, you want to sell it, you want to buy Tesla right after, you can do it and it won't cost you anything. And that's really where we are excited about. It's to have this one app where you can do everything that you need. You don't need to transfer money between your crypto marketplace to your equities marketplace. And so everything can be in one place. And on top of that, we don't charge we don't charge any commission. So we are really focusing on making sure that the customer is getting the best price. And we are trying to also expand the way you can invest. Like, we don't want you to always have to force yourself into one mode specifically. So we're offering multiple options. For example, we just launched recurring a few weeks ago, where you can basically decide, every day, every week, every month, how much you want to spend and how much you want to buy in crypto, and we'll place a market order. And again, we launched it with 0% commission, where some of our competition is still charging like 1 to 4% on every single small amount that you're trying to invest in crypto. So for us, yeah, we are trying to make what we did with equities, and we want to make it on crypto as well, basically, and in a way that fits your need. Like, one of the things that we did, for example, is taxes. Like, we were one of the first app to offer you a 1099 that you can just plug into TurboTax or whatever system you use for your taxes. Like, at the time where I was investing in crypto, I had to do all these spreadsheets, convert them, send them to my TurboTax account. Like, that thing will take me like 3 or 4 hours. But we don't want to do that for our user. We just want them to, feel that they can invest into this new asset without worrying too much. And yeah, maybe the last thing I will add also is, I don't know if you saw the news, but we just launched 24/7 live supports, where you don't talk to a bot, you actually talk to a real person, and they can help you into this system. And so if you have a question about your crypto holdings or how the trading system is working, you can just call them and they can answer you. So all this kind of stuff, I think, makes it in a way where we think crypto is not just a small piece of our business. Like, we really think we want to give the same support for equities or for crypto, for any investment we'll have on the platform.
Interesting. All right. I mean, again, I'm very curious to see how it all fits together, and where Robinhood as a fintech platform continues to evolve. Going back to kind of your personal Bitcoin crypto thesis, like, again, I would say we are in a bull market. We're seeing Bitcoin with some very spirited price action right now, and going into the winter, which is typically historically on a 4-year cycle, when things get exciting. I'm kind of curious, do you think about Bitcoin cycles? Do you think about bull markets? Where does Bitcoin crypto fit on a macro perspective in terms of like where things are going?
Yeah, I think personally, I don't really think about cycles. I'm still somewhat young, and so I still think I have some time to see the assets grow. And so, the few times I'm trying to time the market, I'm usually wrong anyway. So I just hold and hope for the best, and so far it's been working. So I think for me that's how I see things. I definitely, until now it was 4-year cycles. I think I'm wondering if this cycle is going to accelerate a lot more because it's so in the news now. It's everywhere. Like I feel like you can turn on the TV and watch CNBC without hearing about Bitcoin or about crypto or about the new platform. You didn't have that like 5 or 6 years ago, or even 2017, like when the last big bull run, like there was a lot of success story around ICOs and all this stuff, but you wouldn't see like all this institution coming in. So I think, like Thanksgiving coming up and all the end of year holidays, people are going to start talking a bit more about crypto at the table. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is still a lot of interest in crypto coming next year.
Bitcoiners, I am so excited to tell you about the Bitcoin 2022 conference. You guys, Bitcoin 2021 was absolutely a smash hit success. It was over 13,000 Bitcoiners coming together, breaking the barriers on who can come together and celebrate freedom, celebrate Bitcoin, and the energy was absolutely electric. Unfortunately, it was just oversubscribed. There's just people flowing out everywhere. And this year we are learning, we are making the conference bigger and better. We are moving over to the Miami Beach Convention Center, and we are going to be throwing a massive 4-day festival for Bitcoin, celebrating Bitcoin, bringing together the greatest minds in Bitcoin and the greatest businesses in Bitcoin. And lastly, the culture of Bitcoin all together. We have a 4-day extravaganza planned for you guys for Bitcoin 2022. Day 1 is going to be Industry Day. It is a day where you can buy a special ticket in order to just mingle and make business deals happen. Day 2 and 3 is going to be a full-blown Bitcoin conference. This is our main conference. This is going to be on April 7th and 8th. And then lastly, we have the Sound Music Festival, Day 4. Imagine going to Coachella, but for Bitcoin. There's going to be very few talks. It's going to be all about the culture of Bitcoin. It's going to be all about hanging with your fellow plebs. It is going to be an absolutely amazing time. There's going to be Bitcoin musicians, Bitcoin artists, and all your favorite Bitcoiners, and just an amazing environment to party and just see it all, soak it all in, and to get people to realize that a Bitcoin world, a world filled with Bitcoin people doing Bitcoin things, is the world that they want to live in. That's what Bitcoin 2022 is all about. That is what the Bitcoin conference is all about. That's what Bitcoin Magazine is all about. So it is going to be a celebration of Bitcoin, the Bitcoiners, and this amazing movement that is going to make the world a better place. Go to b.tc/conference, learn more about the Bitcoin conference, learn more about all the amazing things that are happening in Miami around the Bitcoin conference, and buy your tickets. And guess what? If you buy your tickets with Bitcoin, you save $100 on all the tickets and $1,000 on the whale pass. So if you want the VIP pass, the big kahuna, if you buy with Bitcoin, you save $1,000. That's a lot of sats. So go and do it right now today. Don't wait. Prices are only going up. This is going to be a can't miss event.
Interesting. I mean, I would say that for sure, Bitcoin is becoming a much more mature and even like legitimate asset. Like, whereas like even the last cycle, 2017, it was very much an illegitimate asset. Okay. I still think there's an enormous amount of misunderstanding, and the amount of newbies to enthusiast or expert is still outweighed, like probably like 99.9% to 0.1%. But so, maybe we can continue to see the traditional hype cycles, but I wouldn't be shocked if some point in the next 10 years, the cycle breaks per se. And it, it's no longer kind of part of this like Bitcoin halving story is kind of like the price action the dominating story around price action. I guess, do you have any predictions about that? Like, when does Bitcoin take over the world, I guess?
I don't know about when it takes over the world or when you reach 1 million or whatever. Like, I actually don't care as much about this kind of prediction, but what I love to see right now is how much impact it has on other industries. Like, right now, clean energy, for example, there's a lot of talks about how crypto is helping clean energy be developed, and you kind of see it like in the way where everyone moved to some states where the energy is kind of very cheap, in part because of clean energy. And that, I think, is one of the most exciting things. Is like you start seeing crypto not just being like this thing that people don't really understand, and that it's kind of pointed by the finger, and now it's actually helping us as a human race to develop and to evolve into the future. But I definitely agree with what you said. I think the cycle is gonna break pretty soon. Like it like I said before, it's so everywhere in the news now, and people are actually starting to learn about it and understand it. There is no way that we keep going this 4-year cycle. It's way too slow.
No, I agree. And I'm really glad that you brought up energy. I want to say it's Bitcoin specifically that is a big player in the energy realm, not just crypto generally. Most crypto is saying we don't like proof of work. But when it comes to crypto, Bitcoin, and the energy markets, I think it's going to be huge, absolutely massive. And honestly, like with all the things that are happening in the environment today, like we need a change. Like something needs to give here with how we generate energy, how we distribute it, how we use it. And I really do think that, Bitcoin can be a very interesting piece in that solution.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think proof of work, proof of stake, and all the 20,000 consensus, they all have pros and cons. And proof of work has some issues as well, like with the ASIC, the way that it's concentrated in some places, and it's so difficult to get them. But I think the advantage with Bitcoin is we had so much time to kind of get ready to it that now I don't see that as such a big issue. And so I think I'm totally bullish on that part for sure.
Yep, we've reached escape velocity, if you will. So again, I'm pretty bullish. I know you're not into the short-term predictions. You're a long-term thinker here, but any bull market price predictions, like maybe a top prediction. Again, you probably hate the predictions, but the audience loves the predictions. So I'm going to start out first, and I say, if there is a top, then it's whatever price is going to make the hodler sell. So something mind blowing. But I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest. I also, I don't think I'm allowed to give investment advice or anything like that. So I don't think I can give you a price, but I think,
all right.
I'm just, yeah, like I said, I feel we are still at the beginning of the adventure. And so, to me, I want to own a piece of the future.
All right. So owning part of Bitcoin, owning crypto is a piece of the future. Johann, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you have a lot of people who want to learn more about your product. Your wallet, your trading platform is one of the biggest by far in terms of importance in the Bitcoin space. So and user count in the Bitcoin space. So it's really exciting to hear that an OG is building it and that you have this kind of vision for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So really exciting to have you.
Yeah, no, super excited to add this interview, and it was great to meet you finally in person. I've been listening for quite some time, so it's nice to see your face. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I don't know, are you on Twitter? Where can people find more about you if they want to keep track of what's happening maybe with you or Robinhood in general?
Yeah, I think you can follow Robin on Twitter. I have a very empty Twitter account. I'm one of these guys that care about privacy. But we share a lot on Robin Twitter account.
All right. Well, perfect. Yeah, keep your OPSEC nice and tight. You know exactly how important that is. And to all the Bitcoiners, keep an eye on what is happening with Robinhood. Regardless of what you think, it's one of the most impactful Bitcoin companies out there, companies with Bitcoin users. So really glad again that they're building out this functionality and that they have a user mindset, in mind when rolling out this stuff. And I really hope the wallet is going to be a massive success for Robinhood. But until then, keep an eye out for all the latest on Bitcoin Magazine, and you can follow me at CK_snarks. So don't be afraid to give me that much deserved follow. But until then, peace.
Yep.